Foods, organic, bulk, gluten-free, and regional favorites. North Crossing Foods has roasted organic coffee, specialty meats, a large selection of organic and natural bulk foods and spices, and local cheese and hand-dipped ice cream. Next to the State Patrol in Spooner, hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 till 7, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Information at 715-635-0084 or northcrossingfoods.org. And not far away, Northwind Book and Fiber at 205 Walnut Street, an independent bookstore and a fine yarn shop with a gallery of local art and jewelry. And toys, games, and puzzles, knitting classes and groups that meet weekly, northwindbook.com. 715-635-6811. Hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5:30, Saturday, 9 to 5, and beginning in May, open from 11 until 3. Well, I have a group here meeting with me from left to right. Tweed Schumann. Nice to see you, Tweed.
Good morning, Eric. Thank you for
Scott
having
Soley,
us.
who's the new CEO, is that correct?
That's correct.
LCO Financial Services, and Lee Harden.
Good morning, Scott.
Nice to have you here. Thank you very, very much. LCO Financial Services is a lending institution, and there's a sign alongside the road that says Hummingbird Funds and Minin Funds. Let's address first what is LCO Financial Services. We visited before, but let's refresh. Who would like to speak to that first? Lee, you've been there since the start. Is that correct?
Well, since about 2014, we wound up beginning doing business in the subprime industry, as did many other tribes, and we had the benefit of being able to start 2 portfolios. And to your mention, we had Hummingbird Funds and Minan Funds, and one of them is an installment portfolio, and the other one is a line of credit portfolio. Mm-hmm. And we gradually began building the business, started with a half a dozen people, and we had a board of directors, and with the honor of serving the governing board, we started out with a very basic structure at first, and we're growing it into a pretty fast-growing enterprise. And we have a lot of plans for the future that would include members of the community as well.
Mm-hmm. Line of credit and installment.
Mm-hmm.
For those, a line of credit you open up and you spend money, right?
As you pay down.
As you pay it,
more.
you borrow more, you pay it down, you borrow more.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Scott. Hummingbird Funds, Minin Funds, some look at these as payday loan operations. Is that safe to say?
No, it wouldn't be a payday loan.
No. Scott, tell me.
Yeah. So the difference between a payday loan and what we're doing is we have installments. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's not where you just pay a fee and then you pay back the principal amount. Mm-hmm. So it's an installment loan with a set number of payments.
So if I were to go to one of those and borrowed $1,000, I pay back over what period of time at what interest rate?
Well, up to a year.
Mm-hmm. Up to a year.
Yeah. And the interest rate depends on the states that you're in and that. So, I mean, the rate it's not gonna be determined by just fees. It's more of interest.
Mm-hmm. Depending upon the states. So now you serve not. This isn't so much a brick and mortar, if you will, although
right.
There is a facility, obviously. This isn't like a credit union or a bank where you walk in and sit with a loan officer. How is this done?
It's done entirely online.
Entirely online.
Yes.
And there are numbers of Native American tribes which are doing the same thing. Is that right?
There is. Very successful.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Now I know we have a tribal councilman with us, and I should point out, I guess you would call this full disclosure, that LCO Financial Services has provided so much and very important money for WOJB. At one time, I know, I think it was about $15,000, maybe more, sometime within the last year or so, and it assisted WOJB in rehabilitating and refurbishing our transmitterability, it was extremely important. Just to let you know that we're grateful, but that's what we do. I wonder if we would turn this microphone just slightly toward you, Tweed. Now this is a Lakota tribal government operation. It's under the umbrella
Of the tribe, correct.
tribe. Yeah.
LCO Financial Services is an economic arm of the tribe, and a very important arm. We as leadership are very proud of our financial services team and what we've grown into. I'm also chairman of the Financial Services Board, so we have a very good board of directors that Lee mentioned. I need to mention my partners on that board, Mr. Don Carley, who's a tribal governing board council member, sits on that board with me. We have Randy Cadat from Casino Operations. We have Daleen Charlo. These are all tribal members. And then Bill Trepanier from the courts at the Tribal Governing Board office. So, we're very enthused about this. We employ many tribal members. I think we're upwards to 35 or 40 employees there now. The tribe just benefits economically immensely from financial services. It's able to balance our budget with their support. We do a lot of community service things with the profits. We provide many member services to the Boys and Girls Club, the Elder Center. Very important to the tribe. And I'm really proud of my financial services team and Scott and Lee, part of our new executive team that are going to bring us to that next level. It's exciting. I think there'll be more jobs and training coming up, and as we progress in this business, who knows where it's going to go. But we've built and occupied half of our old Boys and Girls Club, the old bingo hall there, renovated that entire facility with our profits from financial services. So it's a booming business for us, and we support them wholeheartedly. It's in it.
How does it different than, for example, if you go to a bank or credit union, money is in savings account and checking accounts are there, and that's the money with which such organizations operate, such entities operate. How does LCO Financial Services work? Where's the pot from which loans are made? Where does that come from? Different than perhaps, for example, a credit or your typical, as we have understood them, lending institutions. Scott Soler?
Well, we have different investors that invest in our portfolios, which then means we have a little bit we have to share with them as well. So we don't have the benefit of having depositors to lend the money to, or the ability to borrow at extremely low rates. So we borrow from investors or from kind of hedge funds in out of New York. Is one investor we may go to borrow funds.
So, locally, I deal with one of the banks locally, and I suppose one could say that I'm an investor in that bank. I put money in my savings account, and they use that money.
Exactly.
And then I, of course, have a checking account, which has a different function. Lee Harton, you said subprime. Describe what that is, the subprime market.
Well, generally, borrowers are a little bit higher risk than the traditional person who has a bank account with a financial institution. And the product is available to them for short-term needs where, and the consumer can be a customer just by signing up online to get a fixed amount of money to pay back over a period of time. And that's not easy to do if you just walk into a credit union or walk into a bank. Someone who doesn't have, well, I might say less than perfect credit, has a very difficult time obtaining funds for a short-term need, whether it be a medical expense or fixing your car or taking care of a family member. And there just aren't a lot of alternatives out there. And this is a way for them to expedite that, to get some funds available for their needs or wants at a pretty quick time frame.
Well, I know from personal experience, if I go into the credit union and say, gee, I'd like to do this on my house, we're going to go somewhat of a procedure to arrange that money, if at all. Mm-hmm. If at all. So this is filling a niche,
It is.
a need. Yeah.
There's a vast need for people who need a limited amount of money for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. And it's currently not being filled by financial institutions. And that's why fintech companies are doing very well, because they're able to service that need.
Mm-hmm. I must say, for my part, the first time I heard the term subprime, I thought, well, that must be less than the prime rate. You know, a lesser interest rate.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily so.
No, that's not necessarily true.
It doesn't deal with rate, it deals with the borrower.
The borrower.
Yes. Their credit is less than perfect.
Less than prime,
Yes.
subprime. Wow. That's good to know. I mean, it is. It was a little confusing.
Sure.
Subprime loan lending sounds like it might be less than, but it is the lender. It is the lender. Now, it has provided, Tweed Schuman, you said this has been an important source of income for the tribe, helping with many things around. What kind of, I mean, as opposed to the casino?
Oh, correct. Yeah. The tribe has several revenue streams, for our budget. And the casino, of course, has always been the number one cash cow for us, and rightly so. It's a great operation, and they do a very good job out of there. But, casinos are getting past their prime, let me say that. People do enjoy gambling and spending some of their money in gambling for entertainment that way, but we need to diversify as a tribe. We're growing and we want to exercise our sovereignty. So we're looking out into these businesses where we can produce other revenue streams to keep us growing. And financial services is one of those. Very important to us. Previous leadership before me, was intelligent and looking ahead enough to where they looked into this. And Lee, has been here since the inception. And we keep growing, and the addition of Scott, and I would like Scott to comment a little bit about his history and his experience and why we hired Scott. Mr. Soley, I should say, but
It's fine.
very important to the tribe. Mm-hmm. So when it does, we go to our secretary-treasurer and our CFO, and we decide how much we need from these other revenue streams to balance our budget. Because there's many tribal membership needs that we're trying to justify and support, and there's only so much you can do, with the money we get from programs and grant sources. So these things allow us to do extra for our tribal members. We want to provide more scholarships and not just to universities and local colleges, but also to trade schools. There's a big deficit in our workforce, and we need to train up these people and give them the opportunity to go on and get a good job and receive a good paycheck from here. Mm-hmm. That's what we're after. I guess a better way of life for them, and an easier way of life, to have a job. And I think that'll do a lot to the morale in our community. I think economic growth is going to fight this drug epidemic we have going on. I mean, people need to feel good about themselves and have a place to go to work, earn a good wage, and, pay for insurance for their car, pay their car payment, maybe even pay daycare. And all these things have just been troubling our people for many years. So any of this we can do to provide more opportunities for the tribe is essential to us. And especially as TGB sits and looks at things, we want to address all of those so that people can better themselves, and we'll give them every opportunity. So with that, Mr. Soley was one of over 100 applicants for this position, I might add. And so we screened those out. We had some great people, interviewed some great people, and we kind of unanimously agreed on Mr. Soley. And he has a great background, and could you share that with us?
Yeah,
absolutely.
thank you, Tweed. Yes,
Yeah.
Soley, tell us where you come from.
Well, I graduated from college in 1985. Actually, it was my major was telecommunications. I wanted to be in the station management, broadcast station management. Those jobs were few and far between. Back in '85, there was a recession, or we were just coming out of one, the Jimmy Carter years.
Yeah.
So, I looked all over for a job, and I ended up working for a company called General Finance. And that was the beginning. And I've been in finance ever since. So that's 35 years of finance experience. I've worked for some credit unions. I've worked for banks. But the majority's been in consumer lending like this type. I've worked pretty much, all over the United States. I've owned several companies, lending companies, and I just have a very good grasp of what LCO is trying to do. I mean, they want to grow. They want to take over more of the servicing jobs that are out there. They want to employ more of their people in the community. They have a great space. I mean, it is a very exciting time. There's so much room for growth here. So much room.
I think the last time Lee Harden, you were in with I've forgotten the name of the associate with you there at
Trina Star.
Yeah, Trina Star at Financial Services. I think there were a dozen employees. Now there are 3 times as many, 36.
It's growing.
That's quite impressive. Scott Sola, you said I believe you said you were born and raised in South Bend, Indiana, and then
It was Elkhart, right next door.
Elkhart,
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah.
Nearby Notre Dame.
Yes.
And a number of places also around the country. How much experience here in the cold weather and the rugged life sometimes can be found here in northern Wisconsin?
Yeah, well, when Tweed said there was 100 and they were whittled down, I think maybe it was the weather that whittled some of them down. But no, it's not that much difference. Cold is cold. And, whether it's 30 degrees or 20 below, it kind of feels the same to me.
Well, as some wags said, the cold weather keeps the riffraff out.
There you go.
No. Now, how does it work then? If somebody locally, regionally, what is the service area of LCO Financial Services?
Well,
who are your customers?
We do business in about 37 states, and the beauty of that is that it's online, so we can operate here from the reservation to consumers in that many states, and that has broadened the marketplace enough to be able to build an enterprise that has some substantial financial rewards, not only now but in the future.
Do you serve persons in Wisconsin, the LCO tribe, and others? Huh?
Have chosen not to. That was a board decision, and we're fairly comfortable with that.
I can ask why not? What's if it has a valuable service to each and important to the tribe? Why not LCO members?
I think you could share, Lee, that we are going to expand and may include more of our area in that. But as we started e-commerce and online, as Lee mentioned, and we were servicing the biggest need, and it seemed to be out there in these other states, and so that's where we started. But as we grow and maybe entertain the option of more portfolios, we'll probably look at a local market, and depending where it goes. But
well, the need for short-term lending has been made quite clear by statistics that show that many people in the United States couldn't come up with $1,000 or even $500 in an urgent need. For example, as you said, perhaps to fix your car, to something that came up quickly. Can't do that. But then, of course, the payback is obviously something that might be difficult as well. There have recently been efforts by, among others, Wisconsin Congressman to Washington, Glenn Grothman. Some would say rather unusually for him, he's a fairly conservative congressman, was joining in an introduction of a resolution or perhaps laws to restrict the amount of interest rates charged to no more than 36%. I remember once when it was half that, 18%, shortly after Tweed Schuman. You mentioned the difficult time that followed the Carter administration, when interest rates were 18%, and I had the opportunity to buy a home at that time, but felt 18% was far more than I was willing to pay at an interest rate. Congressman Grothman and a few others, mostly Democrats, would like to see the interest rate restricted to 36%, feeling that that's usury. But oftentimes the loans that others are giving are much higher than that, the so-called subprime. Does it not risk the opportunity to put people in just a very difficult position? And hasn't that sometimes been the case with the subprime loans?
You know, when you restrict access to capital, I mean, what happens is people are put in hard situations. You know, their car breaks down, they can't get to work. So they need access to capital. The reason the rates are so high is because there's a very high default rate. A bank won't loan to somebody that's subprime usually because they won't qualify. Their credit's not good enough, or they don't make enough money. There's a varied number of reasons why they can't get access to credit. Otherwise, people would go there. Nobody's going to choose to go this route if they have alternatives. So we provide something that nobody else will provide. And that's, you know, as far as, you know, the Congress trying to restrict rates, it's a great soundbite. It sounds great to people, but the problem is you're going to alienate a lot of people out there. They're not going to be able to get access to credit. And if they don't have access to credit, that hurts the local economies of those places because they can't borrow the money, they can't spend it, and it's a cycle. So it's very important that everybody have access to credit.
But of course, we do hear about the anecdotes of the story, apocryphal or otherwise, that are actual. That someone borrows $500 and then the next week they go some many percent higher, and then they're stuck in a cycle and can't get out of it. I guess that's a choice that somebody has made, or.
Yeah, and that does happen. That's not to say that if they had access to a bank loan that they wouldn't have gotten in the same. I mean, look, people get credit cards, and what happens?
Yes.
Those rates aren't that high.
Mortgages.
So it happens all across the credit spectrum, not just. But again, certain people want to point out, the problems with this particular industry because they want to restrict it.
And often looking at the worst case scenarios that sometimes occurred. As you said, I mean, credit cards, interest rates running under 20%, but nearly that in many cases, and people spend too much. LCO Financial Services, again, a supporter of WOJB, and we appreciate that support as well. And it's become an important source of income for the tribe. And as you said, and I had a conversation with a tribal leader from Bad River, and he said, it provides a service. It does provide a service. And if there is an avenue for people to borrow money in times of need and perhaps desperate need in order to, fix a car, take care of a medical expense or something else. 36 employees, that is impressive. Yeah.
It is, and looking to expand more with another team of, our call center isn't full yet. We probably have 10 to 15 open seats, and these two, very important, and Trina Starr, as you mentioned, we have a whole team over there. Mackenzie Cadat, there's several other people that are call center managers. Michelle Pittner, our IT specialist. We probably should name all of our employees. We're very proud of all of them.
Absolutely.
What great people, and what a good job they've done over there.
Fantastic.
And Scott also brings to LCO is his banking experience. So with our credit union here, we plan to expand and look at that business and build it up more. We're very fortunate as a tribe to have our own bank and credit union. So as we look to direct deposit for all of our entities and financial literacy training, we hope to run it with Scott and Lee's help through our credit union and actually expand that area. So that's very important to us too. And Scott, why don't you share some of your banking experience also, and what your thoughts are for our credit union?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's a great opportunity at the credit union to expand the services and as well as the membership. Remember, the membership is what drives everything at credit unions. The more people that are making deposits, the more money there is to lend. And that also then reduces the fees. So as the membership expands, fees will reduce, rates get lower, and there's more money to lend. Some of the services is, we would like to be able to offer debit cards, credit cards, as well as mortgage loans. We should be offering our community these mortgage loans that have little or no payments or down payments. I think that would be a tremendous help to the community.
And of course, we are at the corner of County Highways B and K here at Koobie's Coffee, and the credit union is right back there,
Right next to it.
Just feet away.
just
Yeah.
a few feet away. And it's a busy place on Fridays when people come in to deposit their paychecks. I noticed that. You come into Koobie's at 2:00, and about 3:30, 4:00 in the afternoon, they're lining up over the credit union, which was begun. Gosh, how many years ago? It could be 20 years.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
That's
long time. Very fortunate.
quite a while.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's getting on to that. Tweet Schumann, I noticed the casino was really, really busy this weekend. You said, that the tribe needs to look at diversifying sources of income. Sometimes the place is just as busy as can be. Maybe very often, I guess I should say.
It is.
Of course, it
yes.
was Bergamot weekend and great snow and a lot of snowmobiling.
A lot of people in town, and they have a little extra cash they might want to use at the casino for entertainment. And we're very busy, very proud of that staff over there. We've really grown, and of course Lee was there previous to his job here at Financial Services. So it's just continued to build and grow, and great people there, many tribal job opportunities there also in management and all other housekeeping and food service, and really, really proud of that. Along with our golf course. Big Fish now is starting to ramp up and get ready for spring, and we're really excited about that. Our second summer with that golf course. Very proud of the management and the sustainability they have over there. It's been good for all of us. And to add all that property, the tribal expand our boundaries, important to us, and we're always looking at that and improving the reservation.
How can people, we've got a few minutes left, how can people learn more about LCO Financial Services that perhaps we aren't able to share, or would you like to share something finally before we conclude? Lee Harden or the new CEO, Scott Soley?
Well, I think right now what we are trying to do is build several pages on the internet that people will be able to go to get some of these answers.
For some casino work out there. And when I returned in 2011, I got the offer here to become the CEO at the casino. And so I was there for 7 years in that capacity. And I saw quite a bit of change, and it's been a pleasure, being at the point of being able to help these entities grow. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's the thing that I get most of my gratification from, is seeing the entities come from one position to advance to another, and just reflecting on the change has been a nice experience for me.
Well, I can recall when it was bingo, and then there were slot machines, and then, of course, the tables, and much has changed. Perhaps some have thought perhaps casino gaming has plateaued somewhat. I'm not sure if you would characterize it that way, but how is the marketing different? You were in marketing for a long time. Is the audience, the demographic, those who are using casinos, how has it changed, and how does you're outside of it now, but what's your perspective?
I see it as a generational shift, a natural transition from aging baby boomers who frequented casinos as their favorite pastime for generations. They just were the core business of casinos. And then Gen X came along, and they were still interested, And now, as we see more of the millennials in the marketplace, I think there's 110 million millennials now, which is the largest demographic of generational demographic. So their preferences are different. They are much more digital age oriented, and they don't derive the same sort of satisfaction from the passive recreation of sitting in front of a slot machine or even playing table games. They are much more interested in something that challenges them digitally. So you see a commensurate fall off in the market for casino gaming just because of that. And there are many other factors, but I mean, that's one that happens to be quite influential in that market.
Yeah, the challenge to address that. That's very interesting. Thank you.
I'd like to put a plug in for sovereignty, if I could.
Please.
Sure. You know, online lending for tribes has now, it's probably in a 6 or 8 year period of time become an added source of revenue for tribes that are in remote areas. And when we took a look at the model way back in 2013, we understood this to be very similar to what gaming went through. And it's the exercise of that sovereignty that's important for us. So internet lending is not only our entry into the e-commerce marketplace, and it does the fantastic service of broadening our marketplace nationwide, which has all kinds of positive implications for the financial impact it could have to LCO. But more importantly, it's an exercise of sovereignty, very much like gaming was back in the Cambazon days. And for that reason, I'm more interested in seeing this business grow than any other. I mean, the money is one thing, but if you don't have an avenue or a platform to exercise your sovereignty, you will lose it. And so it's the perfect platform for that.
Wow, it's very reminiscent of years ago speaking with Jim Schlender or Jim Zorn and certainly Mick Isham, now the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission. If Native people, if tribal people don't exercise their treaty rights and express their sovereignty in that way, it will go away. It will atrophy.
Absolutely.
Disappear.
That is true.
Yeah.
We just returned as tribal leadership from State of the Tribes address
Oh, sure.
in Madison with Governor Evers and the legislature, and our tribal chairman, Mr. Taylor, and I, and our vice chairwoman, Lorraine Gouget, attended, and we were very well received. They respect it. I think we're turning the corner, as Lee mentioned, on sovereignty, and they respect our government-to-government relationship. And I think the world of Governor Evers and how he's representing and accepting tribes and their sovereignty. So as we move forward, I think this is a good place now for Native Americans and our sovereign issues to be expressed.
Tweed Schuman, thank you very much. Scott Soley, new CEO of LCO Financial Services, and Lee Harden, thank you. Thank you all for your wise words. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Appreciate it.
Very
Thank
much.
you.
We have Democracy Now! Coming up in just a moment. Broadcaster programming is supported in part